What are Taboola ads? Maybe you have seen in the past on news websites the small Taboola logo. And today we are talking about nothing but Taboola. We'll take a look what are Taboola ads, when does Taboola make sense and when not, and is Taboola worth it? So first of all, I want to clarify that Taboola ads are native ads. Native ads are ads that are not looking like ads. For example, you have social ads and on the other hand side, you have native ads. Of course, you have many more, but just to show you a little bit of a comprehension here. The big benefit of native advertising is that the user does not seem that he will get advertised. So it feels completely smooth and naturally for a reader of a news page. In general, native advertising makes sense when you want to scale or when you want to get a cheaper CPA, a cheaper cost per acquisition. And native advertising makes sense either if you're in lead gen or in e-commerce. If you compare native advertising with social media advertising, for example, like Facebook ads, TikTok ads, you will see that native advertising is much more scalable. And when I'm talking about scalable, I mean that you can spend really high amounts of money on native advertising. Of course, we all know or we all seen already those brands which are spending 100K per day on Facebook ads and so on. But many of you guys are not able to scale profitably on platforms like TikTok or Facebook. And that's the point where native advertising joins the game. If you want to see how native advertising is working in general, how a funnel looks like and so on, please check out my other video here on YouTube about native advertising. So let's talk a little bit more about Taboola. Taboola is one of the biggest native advertising traffic source out there, and it's based, like many of native advertising traffic sources, it's based in Israel. And Taboola has a lot of placements on news pages. That's also the point or the section when you see the small Taboola logo, for example, on the bottom of a news page. And maybe you're already familiar with media buying, with traffic buying on Facebook, on Google, on YouTube, and so on. But it's very important to understand that buying traffic on a native platform is completely different, like on, for example, social media platforms. Unfortunately, there are no big algorithms on those platforms at native. So you have to make a lot of manual bidding, you have to set up a lot of manually. So at the end of the day, it's a lot of work. Unfortunately, it's not just a lot of work, but you also need a lot of know-how, because every platform, for example, Taboola works a little bit different than Outbrain, or Outbrain works a little bit different than Taboola. So you have to understand how this traffic source is working. So you need a lot of knowledge for every traffic platform on native if you want to scale very broad. And that's the big pain point, because to learn native advertising is extremely hard. It's not just super easy like on Facebook. I upload a few images, I upload a few headlines, and the Facebook algorithm, especially before iOS 14, works very well and just brings me some conversions. Unfortunately, that's not the case on native. So a native funnel looks completely different than a funnel on social media. On social media, sometimes you're directly linking, especially in e-commerce, to a product page. You do not do this on native. On native, you see the ad, you have a page which is named advertorial, which is the landing page where the user can read a lot of copy, can read more about the product or service, and just then he or she can click to offer page, to product page, and so on. So a funnel works different, but also the audience is different on Taboola. When you have a very young audience on traffic sources like TikTok, you have a more elderly audience on traffic sources like Taboola. So native, the average age of a prospect is something between 28 and, 85, so open end up to 100 years, to be honest. And that's extremely important to understand, because not every product, not every service is a good fit for a platform like Taboola. Let's jump on my screen and I will show you a little bit more about Taboola. Before we start with Taboola ads and show the perspective as an advertiser, I will show you the perspective as a user, as a potential prospect of your brand. So let's switch here. This is a screenshot from a very famous German news page, which is called T-Online. And here you see the bottom of a news article. And what's very interesting here, by the way, there is the small sponsor tag. So a little bit above you find the Taboola logo, but that's not a thing today. But what I would mention or show you is that it's very, very interesting how Taboola is slightly mixed with real news articles, because you see more news or more articles and with some normal content there, but here you see some ads, and you can see that here is it's German unfortunately, but this is ad. So Anzeige means advertisement. So everywhere where is the word Anzeige, it means it's a native ad. So for example, here we see that it's an advertisement, of course, but something like this one or also this one and this one doesn't look naturally or on the first view like an ad. And for the user, it feels completely naturally, because they might thinking that this is an article from this news page. And for example, if it is a very trustworthy news page, and many people are always looking on the same news pages because they're very trustworthy for them. So, and if your ad is on a very trustworthy news page, your brand, your product, your service automatically gets a lot of trust just by the fact that your ad is shown here on a news page, and the user might thinking that it's an article from the reading news page. So that's the first one. And another important way or perspective from you as an advertiser currently is that native advertising is top of the funnel. You don't have a targeting option or no real targeting options. So it's very top of the funnel, and you need a very broad product or service approach. So it doesn't make sense for you to run a very dedicated or niche specified ad there, because you need on the beginning a very broad approach there. And the goal here is on native to convert the user, the prospect, within a few clicks in the native funnel. So native, normally you don't hoping for retargeting or so, but you try to convert the user, the prospect, within the funnel, just within a few clicks. So let's jump to the Taboola page to show you here a little bit more. So first of all, this is the regular Taboola website. You can access it by a web browser. Just type in taboola.com. And what you see here is some publishers like USA Today in the States, the Weather Channel, NBC, MSN, Business Insider, and so on. And of course, they have some top placements. MSN, for example, in general is a very good placement. You find it here on Taboola, you find it on Outbrain, but you also find it on smaller networks like Baidu and many, many more. So that's just one thing. And here you see how it's look like. You can use videos, GIFs, images. Some bigger brands are trying to reach out people by branding campaigns and so on. But in the end of the day, for example, we as an agency just run performance campaigns, so no branding or so, just real performance campaigns. That means that the campaign or that the spending must be less than the output which you get from the campaign. So this is just a small percentage how it might look like. I will show you a little bit more how native ads can look like, because all bigger major platforms like Taboola already have multiple types of ads. So it looks like that, or here like that one, or it also could be in the mid of an article, like here a video or a GIF, or in the Taboola feed, which is the most common, to be honest. So the normal Taboola feed at the bottom of the page is the most common one. But there are also other placements like mobile integrated news for some Android experiences, or Taboola stories, which are not available yet for public, but you see it's almost the same like a TikTok or Instagram story. So yeah, that's coming. That's part of native. And here they're just showing a little bit their balls that they are one of the largest traffic sources on native out there, with some big brands as partners. But don't worry, there are also a lot of small and medium-sized companies which are running performance campaigns on Taboola. Before we're talking a little bit more about the traffic source, I will show you the typical funnel of a native ad, because it's important to understand that the native advertising funnel looks completely different, for example, than a social media funnel. So first of all, you have the ad on the bottom of the page, which is the most common one. So you have a static image and the headline. normally you address in the headline the audience. So for example, people born between this and this age, keep attention. Dog owners, be aware of this and this issue. So that's how an ad might be look like. And after that, you have an advertorial. And it's important to understand what's an advertorial, because an advertorial is a landing page which looks like an editorial. So it looks like a normal common article from the news page. But of course, it's not a regular article, it's a sales copy inside there. Of course, it's written completely naturally in the speak of an more article style, but at the end of the page you have a call to action, you have a FOMO section and so on, where people can buy the product or offer or buy the service. And after that, after people are clicking on this button or on the section, they're coming to an offer page, which might be the product page or a template where they can generate a lead. So that's the typical native advertising funnel, which might look a little bit different from social, because normally on social and e-com, you just have an ad, you have an offer page, and waiting for the first purchases. So that's very important to understand. So you need a little bit more of know-how, because you don't just need a media buying know-how, you also need a very legit copywriting know-how, because if the advertorial sucks, your whole campaign will be not profitable. So let's come to a conclusion. And I thought a lot of the idea to show you the dashboard, but I will not show you the dashboard in this video, just by one fact. And the fact is that the dashboard might be looking very simple for you. And you might be thinking, okay, native ads could be very easy for me, but they aren't. So this video should just give a little bit an overview about the traffic source itself, and not to be a typical how-to video, because I will absolutely not recommend you to try native advertising by yourself, because I will promise you here that you will lose a lot of money when you try it by your own. So I will not show you any dashboard, and I will highly not recommend you to start with native ads, not because we're a native advertising agency, but I saw many people who started with native ads and they lost a lot of money just by the fact that they don't know what bids are, how they can set bids, and it's a very complex system to run native advertising campaigns profitable. I hope you liked that video. If so, I would be extremely appreciated if you give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to get updated when I upload a new video about native advertising. Have a good one. See you next time.